Okay, let's do some one-step equations with fractions. Now, what I mean by one-step equation is that it usually only requires one operation to get the variable by itself. So, example, this first one here, that we only really need to do one step to get p by itself. Okay, so to get p by itself in this first example, we just subtract 5 1/2 from each side. Okay, so minus 5 1/2 from this side, minus 5 1/2 from this side. Okay, it cancels out. What we're left with is p equals 6 minus 5 1/2. 6 minus 5 1/2 is just 1/2, so we're going to say p equals 1/2. Okay, so that's kind of what we mean by one-step equations, is that we're only really basically doing just one operation to get the variable by itself. Now, it may require a few more steps to actually find the answer, and you'll see what I mean later on, that when you're not using a calculator, these can get kind of complicated. We'll try and make it as easy as possible. So let's get into it with the next problem. Okay, next problem is this one here, negative 3/4 times b equals 2. So to get the variable b by itself, we need to, let's say that we divide both sides by negative 3/4, or we can multiply by the inverse. So if we multiply both sides by negative 4/3, that these cancel out. Okay, the negative times a negative turns into a positive, so we're left with b is by itself, and then 2 times negative 4/3, that's going to give us negative 8/3. Okay, next problem, m minus 1 1/2 equals negative 5/4. So to get this variable m by itself, we're going to add 1 1/2 to both sides. So plus 1 1/2 on the left-hand side, and plus 1 1/2 on the right-hand side. Now these cancel out. Okay, these cancel out. What we're left with is m equals negative 5/4 plus 1 1/2. Let's go ahead and convert that into a top-heavy fraction. So to do that, we multiply 2 times 1 plus 1. So 2 plus 1 is 3/2. So we're going to call that 3/2. Okay, negative 5/4 plus 3/2. That's the same as 3/2 minus 5/4. That's simply our commutative law of addition. So 3/2 minus 5/4. I'm going to go ahead and move this other problem up here for now. Let's go ahead and solve this with our vertically and crosswise technique. So we're going to say the numerator is going to be 3 times 4 minus 5 times 2. So 3 times 4 minus 5 times 2. The denominator is simply the multiplication straight across, so 2 times 4. So 3 times 4 minus 5 times 2, that's 12 minus 10. 12 minus 10 gives us 2. And 2 times 4 gives us 8. So 2 8s can further be reduced to 1/4. So here is our answer, 1/4. Okay, next problem, x minus 3 equals negative 5 1/2. So to get this variable x by itself, we're simply going to add 3 to both sides. So we add 3 here, add 3 here, plus 3 minus 3 cancels out. We're left with x equals negative 5 1/2 plus 3. That's the same as 3 minus 5 1/2. Okay, if you think about it, 3 minus 5 is negative 2. But we're also subtracting another half, so 3 minus 5 1/2 is going to give us negative 2 1/2. Okay, if you think about your number line, here's the number 0. We have 1, 2, 3. Here's number 3. We're subtracting 5 1/2. So here's -1, -2, -3. They're subtracting 5.5, so let's start at 3. Okay, subtract 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5. Okay, where do we end up at? -2 1/2. So you could think of these things in a number line if that helps. Okay, next problem, x minus 1/2 equals 1 1/4. Okay, so to get this variable x by itself, we are going to add 1/2 to both sides. So x equals 1 1/4 plus 1/2. Okay, now an easy way to do this, I guess, is to go ahead and convert this into a top-heavy fraction. So we get x equals 4 times 1 plus 1 is 5. Just want to call that 5/4 plus 1/2. Okay, now doing our vertically and crosswise for our numerator, we're going to get 5 times 2 plus 1 times 4. So that's 5 times 2 plus 1 times 4. For our denominator, 4 times 2. We simply multiply straight across. So we get 10 plus 4, that's 14/8. 14/8 can be further reduced to 7/4. Okay, that's dividing top and bottom by 2. 7/4. So our answer is 7/4. Okay, x minus 1 1/4 equals -6. So to get this variable by itself, we need to add 1 1/4 to both sides. Okay, adding it to the left side kind of makes it disappear. So we're going to say x equals -6 plus 1 1/4. Okay, let's turn both of these into fractions, and let's turn this into a top-heavy fraction. So we're left with x equals -6/1. Remember, you could take any whole number and represent it as a fraction by simply putting it over 1. Okay, plus 4 times 1 plus 1 gives us 5/4. So if you want to rearrange this, you could say that equals x equals 5/4 minus 6/1. Okay, that's your commutative law of addition, simply changing the order from left to right. Your commutative law of addition, as you know, is a plus b plus c. I could write that as b plus a plus c, or I could write that as b plus c plus a. You see, I could change the order in which they're given, also with negative numbers. So if I have -a plus b plus c, I could say that equals b minus a plus c. Simply move the order, but the whatever's tacked on in front has to go along for the ride. So this is your commutative law of addition, just saying that when things are being added together, you can kind of rearrange the order that they're in, and you're still going to get the same result. You're not really changing anything, you're just changing how it looks. So now that we've done that, let's go ahead and do our vertically and crosswise again. So for our numerator, we got 5 times 1 minus 6 times 4. Our denominator, we multiply straight across, 4 times 1. So 5 minus 24. 5 minus 24. I believe that is a -19/4. So our answer, -19/4. Okay, our next problem, 2 1/10 times n equals 1 1/6. Okay, what I want to do first is go ahead and convert these into top-heavy fractions, and then we'll go from there. So converting this first one into a top-heavy fraction, we get 10 times 2 plus 1, so that's 20 plus 1 is 21. So we're going to call that 21/10 times n equals, this one we're going to say 6 times 1 plus 1 is 7. So 7/6. Now to get rid of this multiplication, so we're multiplying 21/10 by n. To get rid of this multiplication problem here, we could simply multiply by the reciprocal. So the reciprocal looks like this. times 10 over 21. And whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other side. So 10 over 21 times 21 over 10, that cancels out into 1, so we're left with n equals 7 over 6 times 10 over 21. Now to multiply these fractions together, we simply multiply straight across. So for our numerator, we get 70. For denominator, we get 6 times 21. Okay, so that's going to be 70 over 6 times 21. 6 times 20 is 120. And then 6 times 1 is 6. We're going to call that 126. Okay, now this can be further reduced. 70 over 126. Okay, let's see. We could divide top and bottom by 2. So dividing by 2, we get 35 over 63. Okay, looks like we could divide top and bottom now by 7. So 35 divided by 7, 63 divided by 7. So we're going to say that equals 5 over 9. And there's our answer, 5/9. Okay, so 5 2/7 plus k equals 2 27/70. Okay, so to get k by itself, we're simply going to subtract 5 2/7 from both sides. So we get k equals 2 27/70 minus 5 2/7. Now we could convert this into top-heavy fractions, or we could do a trick that I like to do where we use vertically and crosswise. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to subtract the whole numbers. So 2 minus 5. 2 minus 5 gives us -3. Now we're going to do vertically and crosswise with just the fractions themselves. So we get 27 times 7 minus 2 times 70 over 70 times 7. Okay, that's quite a bit of work. So 27 times 7. Let's see, 20 times 7 is 140. 7 times 7 is 49, so 140 plus 49 gives us 189. So 189 minus 2 times 70 is 140. And then our denominator, 70 times 7, of course, is 490. So we get 189 minus 140. That's going to give us 49 over 490. And it looks like we can divide this even further. Dividing top and bottom by 49, we get 1/10. So notice we get a positive 1/10. Okay, our whole number was a negative number. Our whole number is a negative number, but our fraction portion is a positive portion. So we get -3 and a plus 1/10. Okay, so we kind of have to compensate for this. So what we're going to do is we're going to reduce this -3 by 1, so we're going to call that -2. And then 10 minus 1 is 9 over 10. So our answer is -2 9/10. If you want to know how these are done, these type of mixed fractions, I have a video on mixed fractions, Vedic math mixed fractions using vertically and crosswise. It explains how to do all this, what I just did, converting a negative whole number and a positive fraction into the correct final answer. Go to my video on Vedic math fractions using vertically and crosswise. Okay, 2 5/12 equals -3 1/4 plus k. Okay, a simple thing to do to get k by itself, we're simply going to add 3 1/4 to both sides. So that gives us 2 5/12 plus 3 1/4 equals k. Or we could say that is k equals 2 5/12 plus 3 1/4. Now to solve for this, we're going to do our vertically and crosswise again. First, we're going to add the whole numbers, so 2 and 3. That gives us 5. Vertically and crosswise, we have 5 times 4 plus 1 times 12. So 20 plus 12. 20 plus 12 gives us 32. And for our denominator, 12 times 4. 12 times 4 gives us 48. So 5 and 32 over 48. That can be further reduced. We're going to call that 5 and, let's see, 32 and 48. Well, we know it could both be divisible by 4. So 32 divided by 4. 48 divided by 4. 32 divided by 4 is 8. 48 divided by 4 is 12. Okay, we could go even further than that. We could say, now we could divide each by 4. So we're going to call that 5. 8 divided by 4 is 2. 12 divided by 4 is 3. So our final answer, we get 5 2/3. Okay, real quick, I'll just show you once again how I do these mixed fractions. In mixed fractions, how I do this with vertically and crosswise. So first thing you note is that I add whatever I'm doing here, I'm adding. So I'm going to add the whole numbers first. So that's going to give me a 5. Then I'm going to do vertically and crosswise with just the fractions themselves. So the fractions themselves, doing vertically and crosswise, we're going to say that this is 5 times 4. So 5 times 4. And then what are we doing here? We're adding. So plus, so I'm right, plus. And then 1 times 12. 1 times 12. Okay, 5 times 4 plus 1 times 12. So there's 1 times 12. And then the denominator, of course, is just straight across 12 times 4. So that's kind of what I'm doing here when I'm saying doing it vertically and crosswise. And of course, this is what we got for our answer, 5 2/3. Like I said, if you want to see these videos on how to do these mixed fractions, go to my video. It's a free video, Mixed Fractions, Vedic Math, Mixed Fractions using vertically and crosswise. It really will speed up your calculations. Okay, m minus 4 over 9 equals negative 2 67/90. So to get m by itself, we're going to add 4/9 to both sides. So we get m equals negative 2 67/90 plus 4/9. Now what you could do is you notice that this 9 and this 90 are very similar. So we could change the way the second fraction looks to get this numerator the same. So multiplying this second fraction by 10 over 10, we're not changing anything. Okay, 10 over 10 equals 1, so anything times 1 remains itself. So we're just simply changing the way this looks. So we got m equals negative 2 67/90 plus 40/90. Okay, so what does this mean? It means we have a number line. Okay, here's 0, here's negative 1, here's negative 2. Let's call this point right here between negative 2 and negative 3. We'll call this negative 2 67/90. And we're going to add 40 over 90. So we're going this way, we're adding. Remember, when you're adding, you're going up the number line. So we're adding 40 over 90. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and say the answer equals m equals negative 267 minus 40 is 27 over 90. So negative 2 27/90. Now we could reduce this even further. Notice that now the top and bottom of this fraction can both be divided by 9. So we're going to call this negative 2 3/10. Negative 2 3/10 is our final answer. Okay, 11/6 equals 1/3 plus p. So to get this value p by itself, we're simply going to subtract 1/3 from both sides. So we get 11/6 minus 1/3 equals p. Or we could rewrite that as p equals 11/6 minus 1/3. Okay, so to do this, we do our vertically and crosswise. So for our numerator, we have 11 times 3 minus 1 times 6. So 11 times 3 minus 1 times 6. For our denominator, we simply multiply straight across 6 times 3. Okay, so 11 times 3, that gives us 33. 33 minus 6. 33 minus 6 is 27. And then our denominator, 6 times 3, gives us 18. So 27 over 18, that could be further reduced, dividing both top and bottom by 9. So here we have 27 over 18, divide by 9, divide by 9. We're going to call that 3 halves, or 1 1/2. Okay, 1 and 13 over 64 equals 11/8 times v. So to get rid of this 11/8, we're trying to get v by itself. We multiply by the reciprocal. So the reciprocal is 8 over 11ths. So multiplying both sides by 8 over 11. Okay, that cancels out over here. What we're left with is v equals 8 over 11 times 1 and 13 over 64. Okay, what I want to do is I want to change this second fraction into a top-heavy fraction. So first what I want to do is I'm just going to move things one side to the other. So we have v equals 8 over 11ths times. Now changing it to a top-heavy fraction, 64 times 1 plus 13. It's going to give us 77 over 64. Okay, now it looks like we can reduce. So here we have an 11. Okay, but 77 is 7 times 11. So I guess we could write it out like this. 8 over 11 times 7 times 11 over 8 times 8. Okay, now we could do some canceling. So 11 and 11 and 8 and an 8. What we're left with is 7 over 8. So we're going to say v equals 7/8. Okay, 39 over 5 equals 2m. So to get this m by itself, we need to divide both sides by 2. Okay, so 39 over 5 divided by 2 over 1 equals m. Now, to divide a fraction by another fraction, you simply multiply by the reciprocal. So we're going to have 39 over 5 times 1 over 2 equals m. So we're going to say m equals 39 times 1 is 39. 5 times 2 is 10. So m equals 39 over 10. Now to change this into a top-heavy fraction, 10 goes into 39 3 times with 9 left over. So we're going to call this m equals 3 9/10. Final answer. Okay, you made it to the end of the video. I want to thank you for watching. Please press the like button down below. Leave a comment and subscribe for more videos. Thank you.